Hello, my name is SmallBizDavid, and I hope that you are having as wonderful an entrepreneurial day that I've been having today in day 5 of Global Entrepreneurship Week. And I need to mention a few words about the week and why it is I'm doing what I'm doing this week. 8 years ago, the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City, the leading uh, foundation for entrepreneurship in the entire world. The things that they do go beyond entrepreneurship and into a whole bunch of things that literally the world waits for information and research coming out of the Kauffman Foundation. So 8 years ago, they had a brainstorm to have this Global Entrepreneurship Week, and essentially the week would be about entrepreneurs around the world sharing their stories, not necessarily to other entrepreneurs and other small business owners, but more importantly, to the students of entrepreneurship, those folks who were going to make the decision at some point in time to be entrepreneurs, to start businesses, to do the things that they needed to do. And that's how they were going to spend their days in entrepreneurship and small business. That was the concept. I originally learned about it at the end of the week, just by accident. Some of the networking I do and some of the things I read, and lo and behold, I got embraced. I wanted to totally embrace the concept. So year 2, I went out to Kansas City to the Kauffman Foundation and devoted myself, committed myself to becoming a distinguished partner, whatever that meant, of the week. So that's what I do, why I do it. It's such an exciting week for me. It plays into my beliefs about entrepreneurship and once again, why I do the things that I do. I was just having this discussion with Scott, who we're going to unmute here in a second, and he has a wonderful spirit of entrepreneurship in and of itself. And I'm actually proud to say that I had to do some probing at one point to help that, to make that happen. Is that right, Scott?
Well, hi, David. And yes, exactly right. And I was thinking right along the same lines that you and I, you are one of my oldest G plus friends. As we were talking about a few minutes ago before coming online, you and I.
Wait a second, you're still in the green room.
And Jess Dool, no, we're on stage.
Oh, there we go.
And Jess Dool, you and I and Jess met together for the first time on Ray Hilt's Hangout on Air, and we've never looked back. And actually, you and I then met privately, and you started me off on the entrepreneurial trip that I am right now. I like to call myself the reluctant entrepreneur who never looked back, because it wasn't through a conscious choice.
Let me read. May I read something? I'm going to read something.
Go for it.
And you said it wonderfully well. And there's such a spirit of entrepreneurship in this statement, and that's why I want to take the time to read it. And I had asked folks who were doing HOAs with me this week to make a statement, to say something, to kind of put it there so that people who would watch the event, they could get a feel for what it is that you're all about, or what you do and why you do it, and just a motivating kind of thing. Well, you really took it to heart, and I want to read what you wrote. People have the opportunity to read it themselves in the event stream, but it's wonderful, Scott, and I'm so proud. I'm proud of you for what it is that you said. You'd like to refer to yourself as the reluctant entrepreneur who never looked back. You said that a second ago. You said it in the stream. You go on to say, it takes courage and an act of fate to set out to be on your own. It helps to study up, find best practices, and otherwise avoid some of those rookie mistakes through networking and finding a mentor, or nowadays, I guess that might be hiring a business coach. all the things you're saying, Scott, are so true and so spot on, if you will. But in the end, it's up to you. Do you have the fire in the belly? Are you doing what you love to do? Does it support your underlying values and vision? In the end, that's what will sustain you and transform those inevitable failures into learning experiences. Scott, that is so well said. And you touched upon so many things that are so very important. And students of entrepreneurship, read and take to heart what Scott said here, because it's the essence. It's the essence of doing what we do. Finding the passion, being persistent in what you do. And I think persistence, I can read persistence into that statement, Scott, without you really using the word persistence. There's another word that I like to bring out, and it might be implied in what you said here, but there's a patience. There's a patience to what it is that we do, because, and why is that? Why is that? I'm going to answer it, then I'm going to look for your answer. My answer to it is that, when we ask people to do business with us, for whatever it is, we have a product, we have a service, whatever it is we do, we're asking those folks to change their behavior, whatever they're doing now, and do business with us. Why? Because we believe we're bringing value to the table. Not believe, we know we're bringing value to the table. And if we aren't, find another table. find another table. So you said it so very, very well. And I'm going to promote the living daylights out of what you've said here, Scott, because it is so spot on. So you know what? I'm going to shut up for a moment and let you share your thoughts and expound upon what it is you've said.
Well, you think you're very kind in your comments, David. You're asking for my response. I wrote down the word maturity, and I think there is something to be said in terms of, if one steps into the space, there needs to be some measure of maturity, because it's going to be rough for most people, I think. And during those rough times, one needs to be able to have a little bit of faith that things are going to go through, and to have the stability not to go half-cocked off onto some path that will derail you. There's no guarantee that entrepreneurship or being in business for yourself will succeed. And these statistics better than I do, David. Don't more people who go into business for themselves fail within a year than who succeed? Is that a true statement?
Supposedly it is. And to that point, I did an HOA this week with Ken Manessi, and Ken actually stated those statistics. I don't pay attention to that stuff, Scott. I really don't. Not that I should or shouldn't. I'm more about doing and learning from what it is that we do, learning from what it is we do right, learning from what it is that we do wrong. And I just an hour ago, I asked Zara about when is it do we change our strategy? When do we do it? When she's changing her business strategy right now because it's the right thing for her to do. She got an outside opinion, and somebody said, boom, this is what you do there. She said, you're right. I've been maybe focusing on the wrong stuff, and this is what I'm going to focus on.
That's very interesting that you say that. A lot of us are kind of in the class of 2012, maybe. There is a seismic shift in the force around 2012, 2013, when the internet opened up to people like you and me, and especially on the G+ platform, because of streaming video. And then it became Hangouts on Air, which meant that it could be recorded and then edited and repurposed. But then there's also collaboration tools.
The Scott treatment could be put to it.
And the Scott treatment could be put to that. An opportunity for people to be entrepreneurs and to be on their own creating their own destiny, the tools to be able to do that far more powerfully within the last 3 or 4 or 5 years than ever before in the history of mankind, or at least, in this modern era. So we all jumped in and we spent the first year learning the technology, learning how to apply our craft to the new environment. Then the second year, we tried to perfect it. And this is the third year. And I can count so many people who are now adapting. They've taken it just about as far as they can. And now they're saying, all right, I've done everything I can. Now, what's the best niche for me to go to? What is the mid-course correction that is appropriate for me right now? Zara's doing it. I'm doing it. You've done it. Other people that you've had guests are doing exactly the same thing.
Scott, I really haven't done it, but go on. I'm not smart enough to do it. I just keep on going.
Well, you are now publishing a book, an ebook, or a video book, I mean.
Right. That goes back to, it started in my roots as a publisher. That's how I started my entrepreneurial career, as a traditional publisher. But you're right. I in today's world, I didn't. I published a book traditionally 7 years ago. But as I wanted to do it again, I said, you know what? What's the best way to do it? And it might not look like a book. It might not feel like a book, but it's going to have content, and that's what the book. I didn't tell. Let me say one last thing, Scott, about this, and I don't know that I've told you this. One of my business objectives for 2016 is I'm going to be launching in January the SmallBizDavid Academy of Solo Entrepreneurship. Have I told you this?
Bingo. No, this is new for me.
Okay. And because of that, and because you were involved in my video book, I'm going to use that book as the textbook. That's the textbook for the Academy. And so
outstanding.
We're going to play on that. So I might ask you to be a guest lecturer at some point in time.
Well, that's very kind. I would be happy to if I can contribute something. I've been thinking about asking a friend of mine. He used to work for me at the community access station in Seattle, and then he saw the writing on the wall and changed his course, and he started teaching video production to high school students. So I'm thinking about asking him if I can go in and talk to his high school students about the very topic that is so near and dear to your heart, David, and that is, letting them open their eyes and look at the possibility of becoming entrepreneurs and providing a service online. And I'd be saying, because you're in your video production class here at high school, think about that being your niche out there after graduation, and then go through all of the things that I've learned, and maybe the things that you've learned or that you're teaching for them.
You have hit, Scott, once again, you are spot on. You have hit at the heart, the raison d'etre, if you will, of Global Entrepreneurship Week with that concept. And what a great place to talk about it than in this HOA that we're doing. And to that point, Scott, if I can be of any help to you from a distance, from a 3,000-foot wall that we built, if I could be of any help on that endeavor of yours, please don't hesitate to get me involved with you on it.
Well, it may be that one of the offers that I could make to the classes, if you want to find out more about what I'm talking about, I happen to have a good friend who has an academy that is made just for you.
Well, and I am I'm going to make a special price, if you will. It's going to cost to go to the academy, but it's very, 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 very nominal. I should have my head examined for how nominal it is, but it's not about money. And I'm going to make it more available to students, as opposed to folks who are out in the world, baby boomers, what have you. And so we're gonna have a lot of fun with it, as always. But I can't believe you and I really didn't talk much about what we wanted to talk about today, and all you are hitting on every single thing that we need to be talking about, Scott. What
Oh my God.
what a sage you are. What a sage you are.
Well, I had a good mentor to begin with. Let's just leave it at that. Mr.
So
Small Business David.
share with you what your thoughts were as you were, you were in a situation where somebody was giving you a paycheck, and then whatever happened. So you had to make some decisions in your life. And let's talk about that, because there's a big learning experience in those decisions that you had to make.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to think about it, looking in retrospect than looking forward. But I was at the height of the Great Recession, and the hospital marketing department I was in went through a number of layoffs, because when a hospital lays off 10% of the workforce due to economic purposes, they don't lay off patient-facing staff. They go to the marketing department, which may or may not be a good idea. So I was learning social media at the time, and I thought, well, this is the course that I should continue. I was fortunate to be able to take a year's sabbatical where I tried to learn my craft, and I thought I had to be a social media manager. What I eventually learned was, the narrower you make your niche. In other words, find out what you do best, find out what your passion is, find out what you can do that nobody else can do, that relieves the pain of someone else, and then go after that. And the more narrower my service, the broader my service area became. And it just was one of those revelatory things that has served me well ever since. So I decided upon editing Hangout on Airs into special, small, golden nuggets that people could then repurpose in blog posts and in other areas, video frequently asked questions, those sorts of things. It just was wonderful. Someone said, well, why don't you call it the Scott treatment? So I said, okay, and it's been the Scott treatment ever since. Things are changing. A lot of people are learning how to do video editing. I liken it to, it used to be, and you'll remember this, David, used to be that people would go out and hire people to word process, right? There's no way that you and I could bold or italics or do any of those things. So we'd hire out to graphic art, and then Word Perfect came along, and then Word came along, and word processing. And all of a sudden, you and I are doing a lot of the word processing like functions on our keyboard, and we're not going to hire anyone else to do it because we can do it ourselves. Video production is along the very same trajectory, that people are getting more and more into it to do it themselves. And you've heard me say this a thousand times, well, a dozen times before, that video production or video editing is a 21st century skill. And it's something that if you learn it now, it's not as if you're going to regret it 5 or 10 years from now. It's going to serve you well for the rest of your life. Well, what does that do to the Scott treatment? It means that, like everything else in life, one needs to readjust to mid-course corrections. And that's what you were talking about earlier. So many of us are doing exactly that. So come January, and it's no big secret, I will be offering, the Scott treatment will be offering an opportunity for people who are subject matter experts to translate that special knowledge they have into online courses. And I'm teaming up with someone who is an online course e-learning expert. So she and I will be able to take the hands of people who have something to share with the world, and together we'll use the collaboration tools that are now online to create Udemy-like online courses and go from there.
Well, this is brand new to me because I haven't heard you talk about this before. Wonderful. We both have shared what's going to be happening in January in our lives. How cool is that?
Boy, we've been out of touch with each other too long, David. We should.
Well, unfortunately, I've been mending from physical stuff, and now.
Yeah.
Are you at liberty to say who your partner is on that?
Yes, Rebecca O'Grady Marshall. She's out of Australia, and we've been prepping for about 2 months now. We decided that we would work until the end of the year, getting everything ready so that we could hit the ground running.
Well, how exciting is that during Global Entrepreneurship Week in November to announce a new business launch in January? How cool. Once again, Scott, you are so spot on in what you're talking about. And my goodness, this is wonderful stuff.
And as far as I know, this might be my outcoming. This might be my first public announcement for this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, Scott, I've had so much fun over the years. I would say there's been about a half a dozen times where I've been doing an HOA and somebody was announcing something new in my HOA. How you know how that makes me feel? How great that makes me feel?
Well, didn't you have the first interview for David Amerlin for one of his books? I think so. After it was published.
Yes, I had the first interview on the SEO help. I did the first interview he so graciously gave to me. Yes. And that was probably about 1 million interviews ago.
Yeah. This is something else for you to check out, David. And I wonder if there's anyone on the platform who has done more HOA interviews than you. I'm trying to think of someone, because most people.
Does it matter?
Sure, it matters. Most people will do one interview a week, right? So when you're in your stride, how many interviews might you do in a week?
This week I'm doing 15.
Yeah.
And I did 15. I did 15 2 years ago. I'm trying to remember how many I did last year. I don't even remember what I was where I am. I didn't do 15 last year, but I did 15 2 years ago and 15 or 16 this year. Actually, I might be doing more than that. Somebody came on, somebody dropped off, somebody came on. I mean, it's been a real, it's been a fun week. What I did differently this year is I broke them up into blocks of a half hour as necessary, as opposed to, and I just really based upon my schedule. I didn't want to start them till noon, and I didn't want to go on all afternoon with them. So that's what happened. And it's 1, 2, 3. Actually, I was supposed to do one interview, and I kind of knew that it was going to. It might have been on an Amtrak train, and the original thought was it was going to be there was a wireless connectivity, which there wasn't, and Wayne Meter didn't know that till he got on the train, and so we had to cancel that one. We're going to pick that one up. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 this week.
Yeah.
So it's but you know what? It's been so much fun and so exciting, and I'm really so proud and honored that the folks that I can get the spirit and get it out, and because we need to share the message. We need to share that energy with future entrepreneurs and get them excited about it, because it's a viable choice. I threw out a question, and I get this argument all the time, or I get into this argument all the time. If a student in college knows that what they want to do ultimately with their life is to start a business, do they really need to go to college to get that business started? And
well, yeah. May I respond in a few minutes?
Absolutely.
And that is, and this is very near and dear to my heart as well, because I did not know what I wanted to do when I grew up, when I got out of high school. And my folks insisted that I go to college because they felt, as was common knowledge back then, if you didn't go to college right out of high school, you might not go to college at all. You might not graduate. And that would be one of the worst things ever. So I kind of wasted a couple of years trying to figure it out. I took several years off, and then as an older student returned to college, got a great degree, and then went on from there.
What's your degree in?
It's in communications.
And I've got a
Video.
master's degree in communications, Scott.
Good for you. Well, I only have a bachelor's, but I took a year's class in computer and society in 1979, I think. So kind of getting on the ground floor, and a year in actual video production, and graduated from the Evergreen State College in Washington State, which is a whole different story. But I guess my point is that the reason to go to college, in my opinion, it's twofold. One is to get a craft or to be able to make a living or something like that. Secondly, it just is a great way for you to become the person you want to become. And it's you grow up and you're at your home, and you've got the context that your parents give you and whatnot. To go off and to be in college, this is where people change their context in life, and they rediscover who they are, and it's in a rich, protected environment with lots of peers. And when they graduate from college, they are a different person than had they gone out into the real world and just were kind of aimless or not in a structured environment. So I'm a great fan of people to go to college so that they can become the person they want to. And I'm also a great fan of a liberal arts education.
Well, then you might not like me very much by the statement I'm going to make right now, Scott.
All right. Well, I wanted to get my 2 cents in first. Go for it.
I had kind of two objectives in going to college. Neither of them were accomplished. Two of them, and neither one of them were accomplished. Okay. And I can honestly say, and this is me talking, and it's not a big, broad statement. I wasted 5 years of college. I got a college education. I got 2 degrees, but in retrospect, where I am today versus where I thought I was when I went to college, they were 5 wasted years. Now, having said that, I was very, very fortunate that I could work my way through college and indeed paid for my college education when you could afford to do that. You absolutely can't even come close to that today. But I made enough money in one summer and the fall and winter of that same year, and it was, I think, 1968, I made enough money to pay for my entire college education and buy my first car. Now, wow. you can't come anywhere near making a statement. And like I said, I had 2 objectives thinking when I went to college what I wanted to do with my life. Neither one of them happened. Yeah. And it was just really, it was by circumstance that I'm doing what I'm doing today. I mean, I didn't quite know where I was headed, and I had some ideas, but my father died when I was 1 year out of college, and had a situation where my mother inherited 2 very, very small businesses. She couldn't manage or run either one of them. She was fortunate in that I was able to do one of them, and her brother was able to do the other one. So we kept it in the family. And I've told the story a million times. You probably have heard me tell it. My mother was my business partner for 90 days. And I said to my mother, "Mom, I don't want to be your business partner anymore. I want to be your son." And her father, my grandfather, overheard me, and he turned right to me in a split second like that, Scott. He turned to me and he said, you will give your mother $10,000 for that business and do whatever you want to do. I mean, it happened that quickly, that fast. And I said, okay, Papa, you're the CEO of this company, of this corporate, of this family. That's what I'll do. And that's what happened. So that was my first exposure. And here I was, 24 years old, and bought a business. And then I had bills to pay, and I had a debt. I assumed debt right away. But you know the end of the story. I haven't looked back since, and it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
No,
so,
absolutely.
And that's that, and it's gotten me. It's had its part in getting me here today. So I am obligated, Scott. I am obligated by a pledge I took 3 years ago, the Entrepreneur's Pledge, that I'm doing the stuff that I need to be doing, that I want to be doing, that I love doing. And we talk about monetizing. Scott, I haven't made much money doing what I'm doing, but I have found a way to continue doing it.
Yep.
So why not? Why not?
Why not?
Why not? I guess that's the question of the day, or the answer in the question. Why not?
Well, there's no one path for all people, and so for those for whom the entrepreneurial path is appropriate, there are better opportunities today than maybe ever before, simply because the internet opens things up so that we can be more in charge of our own destiny. We can collaborate online. We can pick and choose those people we would want to work with, as opposed to being confined to just those who happen to be geographically close to us. So the opportunity certainly is there.
Well, and you bring up you once again how smart you are. You brought up another major theme of the week that has rung through almost every day, and that's the concept of solopreneurs like you and myself. We operate, we do what we do. We do it by ourselves without staffs of people, but what we do. And I started talking about this 5 years ago, that's the new small business model that's happening, is that we collaborate. I find a Scott who has a skill set that I don't have. He finds a David who has a skill set that he doesn't have, and we collaborate. And we do things. And then what happens is if it becomes a formal kind of business, if you will, ours didn't, but I know that if I need anything video, I know who to go to. Well, you probably have 1,000 people to go to for marketing and sales.
Well, but not for entrepreneurship and for what you do.
I'm just joking. But that's the new business model being created. That there's this collab. Well, you found somebody in Australia. You didn't find her by meeting her in a coffee shop in Seattle. You met her on the internet somehow, and you said, "Wow, you've got this, and I've got this, and here's a possibility that we can get together," and you're making it happen. And that's the beauty of what it is that we do.
So I heard on your show earlier this week that by the year 2020, 40% of the workforce will be freelancers. And if you've got regular brick and mortar, regular big companies who are not having people exactly on payroll, but who are freelancing for them, they're the ones who derive the benefit. However, if we as individuals take the matters into our own hands and we are the ones who collaborate with others, then the benefits will flow to us and to our clients. Couldn't be better.
It's a wonderful world we live in, isn't it, Scott?
It is.
It's a wonderful world. Wow, there has been so much good stuff that has happened this week, and I've been able to do something this year, Scott, that hasn't been. Well, I've been more aware of it this year. That I don't know how accurate, or I don't really know totally what Google calls a view. I mean, I know what they call it, but I don't know how it gets there necessarily. But I have had from the beginning of the week to where we are now, and I've only been talking about Global Entrepreneurship Week, so there's a strong assumption that increase in number is attributable to my topic. It's an assumption. I can't prove it, but I'm going to be approaching 15 or 20,000 views this week of either people seeing a posting I've done, watching. I mean, there certainly haven't been that many folks watching, but you know what? I'm going to be taking all this content and keep marketing the content, so it's got longevity. It's and you will be able to go back someday and say, I made that announcement on Friday afternoon.
There we go.
During Global Entrepreneurship Week 2015.
And
Scott,
I'll be more than happy to give you credit for our great success.
You don't have to give me any credit whatsoever. Scott Scowcroft, thank you for. Oh, I had one last question for you. We were talking about students, and is Michael involved in your business?
Oh, well, he is my number one IT person, and you're going to be green with envy because within a month or two, we're going to have fiber to and from the house, and he's going to be in charge of that. So,
oh my goodness, is that Google Fiber or somebody else's fiber?
No, it's someone else's fiber, but it'll be a gig upload and a gig download. I can hardly wait.
Well, I have fiber where I am right now.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm on fiber right now. Well, you remember the old days, how grainy my picture were. No, I've got fiber. I've had fiber now for about 15 months.
Oh wow, that's great.
Well, you can see the difference in the image, and yes. Okay, well, Scott, thank you for taking as always. It's always a pleasure because I know there's going to be interesting and energy and all kinds of things. Surprisingly, we didn't tell anybody viewing that you and I shared an industry. You were making money in the industry. I was giving it away, but developing content. For those folks who are wondering, Scott and I were both involved in public access television. Scott, you were a general manager of your station, right?
Yeah, I was.
General manager of a public access station in Seattle, Washington. I was just a low-life producer of shows on a public access television station in Cincinnati, but very proud of the 65 shows about entrepreneurship and small business that I produced in about a little over 2 years, Scott. I did that.
Yep.
So here we go. Thank you, Scott, for your time today. And as always, lots of fun. Folks, if this is the first time that you have visited our Dreaming with Entrepreneurs and Google Plus community, come back again. If you had a question today that was not addressed, or if you see this recorded video in the future and have a question, please either plus me on it, plus Scott on it. Send me an email, david@dreamingwithentrepreneurs.com, and I promise you will get an answer to your question. Thank you. Thank you for your time today, and we hope that it has indeed been a learning experience for you, and maybe so much that next year, Global Entrepreneurship Week 2016, you might want to get involved. My name is SmallBizDavid, and I'll see you the next time, which may very well be the best time. We'll see you then.